My English name is Ed. I grew up in Laclacroix, like my spirit name has to do with the way a thunderbird is and while it's in flight, how shifty it is. My grandparents were very strong, traditional people, and we grew up around powwows and whatnot, or ceremonies at home, and they basically got us to go pick medicines throughout the whole course of the year, picking different medicines depending on what season it was, right? But there are some medicines you can pick throughout all 4 seasons. White sage. A lot of it I find in this area is along train tracks because the train drops the seeds as it comes from out west with all the wheat and whatever else they bring, right? But if you go out west, like this specific one comes from Saskatchewan. When it's fresh, it's a little bit greener tinge to it, but it basically looks the same, and the leaves will look a little bit bigger. But as they dry, it seems like they shrink and then they turn white. If you look at the bottoms, they're broken off or cut off. If you were to pick the roots right out, then it basically kills the plant, right? But if you pick it like that, then chances of it coming back are greater than pulling the whole root out. What I do is I tie it in clumps like that, then I'll hang it on a string in the basement or whatever and just let it dry like that. This is basically used for smudging and cleansing your home, for prayers. Cedar, Gijik, and one's from northwestern Ontario, Laclacroix actually, and one's from Golden, British Columbia. And how you can tell the difference is the one from here, the stick is brown, and you see how those little long leaf-like things are long, and then with this one here, they're shorter, and then the stick is red. And basically you use that as smudge as well. Dry it out, you grind it up and use it, put it on your smudge, or you could hang it above your doors and your windows in your home for protection, right? To ward off like bad spirits, I guess. These look different from your regular coniferous trees, right? They all have needles. These ones aren't actually needles. Like this one is a male, right? And if you go to the bush and you come to a cedar stand, the females will have little brown bell-looking things on them. And you actually use those things and you boil them down and it makes the cedar oil. You do the same thing you would with sage or any other plant. Offer your tobacco and explain why you're taking it. And you try not to take too much from the same tree, like as if I was picking sage, I saw a field of sage, I wouldn't take too much from there, right? Just take what you need and go to another field. Because that way you don't pick out that whole field, and then that way it replenishes. Pearl everlasting, Animki wabigwinig. Translated, that means thunder flowers. And basically what they use this for back home is my grandparents and my parents would burn this before a thunderstorm, like to help protect our home from the thunder spirits. And this you could find anywhere, on any side road, bush road, grows everywhere. Just dry it out like you would anything else, like tie it up and dry it out and take the flowers and burn them, and it smells like it gives off like a sweet smell, hey? They're like little fluffy little flowers. They don't have actual petals, and it's got little brown spots, or sometimes they'll be yellow, like some of them are yellow. Pitcher's plant or frog plant, Menikwachigan. It's like a cup and it holds water in there. This plant will actually eat the like bugs. The water will go in there, and then the bugs will go in there, and then it actually feeds on that stuff. And they call it frog plant because it looks like a frog with its mouth open when it's in the. This is dried out, and that's why it's not shiny. It's kind of dried out now, so. And you would find that in swamps, anywhere there's moss and spruce trees. And it too has many different medicinal purposes and whatnot. And harvesting that, you just reach down to the bottom of the moss and pull it out one at a time, one leaf at a time. Bear root, makowashk. or makwachibik. Washk would be the plant, but this is the root. Chibik is a root. Makwachibik, bare root. And this is it in its ground up state. You could use that for smudge. You could use it in teas, just for many different medicinal purposes. And harvesting it, you'd have to dig into the ground, first offering your tobacco and explaining why you're taking it. Digging it up is the one that takes most time, and you get that from the mountains, Rocky Mountains, Montana, Alberta. A lot of this stuff comes from when people exchange stuff and gift each other with stuff. Like when I go to Saskatchewan, I'll bring medicines that we have here that they don't have out there, and we'll trade for sage or whatever they have there, right? And so that's how this came here. Rat root, we call it wike in our language, and that comes from water, like in the mud. You gotta dig it out, and it has a bunch of little roots to it, and you have to clean it right out. And then it's hooked up to something like this, which comes in a bigger root, and it looks like a pineapple. This is called Okandamu. Okandamu. This one is basically for colds, and you could use it in your teas, or you could break off a chunk and chew on it and whatnot. And this is like for pain. You'd get it wet and put it on, and this thing sucks out the infection basically. But you can find that in the water anywhere, anywhere. Like this one here you can't find unless you dig in the mud. But this one here, you'd find long shiny blades of grass that stick out of the water, thick blades of grass, and then they'll have a little thing that stands straight up and looks like a little pine cone on the top of it. That's where you find this. That's the root of that plant. And if you go further down, then it's connected to that. You can find it in beaver ponds, you can find it in rivers, you can find it in bays, as long as they have a mud bottom. So mud and sand, not rocks. It grows everywhere, anywhere in northwestern Ontario anyways, I know. It grows everywhere. Chaga, sagatagan. Get that from birch trees all over northwestern Ontario. This is like a fungus where the young tree's damaged, and then it tries to heal itself, and this is what grows on there. And again, you try to be respectful when picking chaga. You offer your tobacco, and then just because you see a big piece doesn't mean you take the whole thing. You take what you need, and then when you take what you need, it grows back. Whereas if you take the whole piece off, then it doesn't regenerate. It basically kills the tree. This is like the band-aid on the tree, right? It keeps it alive. You could use in teas. You could use it as put it in your mouth, but you would grind it up, hey? Again, you can find it anywhere there's birch trees. Mint. You find this in the any swamp where you'd see Labrador tea or those frog plant, pitcher's plant, whatever you want to call it. This will be right in the moss, and it grows on little long vines. Like there's probably 5 vines in this little roll here. And you put that in your teas, and it's good for when you got colds. It's got like a minty taste to it even. And you find that in any swamp in northwestern Ontario. Like, as long as there's moss, then you'll have this. Knowledge of your own self brings self-esteem, and then a lot of people say we're lost when we're not, right? That's the children we have today, the young people just need to reconnect with the land and spirit, and from that they'll learn to stand up and be strong again like we were back then. Because I'm sure any elder, if asked respectfully by offering them tobacco first, then I think they'd be more than happy to go take you out to the bush and show you and teach you.